I read a lot of series. Some have told me too many, but how can I not? Series like Hardcore Leveling Warrior, Lore Olympus, UnOrdinary, and Omniscient Reader. Series that follow these complex stories and characters that make me question morality, romance, and even reality itself. Series like these are fantastic. But sometimes all a series needs to be is just pure, chaotic fun. I like complicated things. It's the whole reason my channel even exists. Explaining characters, storylines, series, themes, and whatever else I can get my hands on. It's quite literally why I am where I am today, and it's honestly my favorite thing, even if I didn't have this channel. But sometimes, dear viewers, sometimes I need a break. Look, there's only so many misunderstandings, misconceptions, mental games of mind chess, time travel, regressions, copycat powers, subversive expectations, broken morally gray characters that need therapy that I can take at once. Now, I'm not discouraging it, I love it, and it's obvious people love it too. That's why series like Hardcore Leveling Warrior, Lore Olympus, UnOrdinary, Omniscient Reader are as popular as they are. But man, oh man, do we like simple fun. Series like Blue Chair and My Giant Nerd Boyfriend are just a breath of fresh air, and the weirdest series to join this roster of comedic comedy chaos, plus 99 reinforced wooden stick. Oh boy, this series, man. We follow, oh, actually, they don't give us his name until episode 5, and even then, they don't use it that often. Here it is. Ji-Yu Lee, a 21-year-old gamer, playing the virtual reality game Chrono Life. And unsurprisingly, like many games, everyone playing it is incredibly toxic, dissing our main character who just wants to party up and play with others, leading him to meet Luna, a deceptively charming murderer, as she backstabs and murders our noob, calling him weak and powerless, leading him to try and fail to reinforce his items, a system to make his items stronger, breaking everything he owns, when someone randomly decides to give him a wooden stick, and on a whim he reinforces it, and does it again and again and again, till he accidentally creates a powerful, plus 99 reinforced wooden stick. But it's just a wooden stick, you might say. It's the beginner's weapon. Even Breath of the Wild has its sticks and they're weak and break easily. But man, oh man, does that item reinforcement do a lot. Because he accidentally drops it, tapping the ground, creating a shockwave that kills 850,000 players. However, like Breath of the Wild, these sticks have low durability, only being able to strike 5 times. And after the whole, murdering 850,000 players and smacking this random dude, he's got 3 strikes left. Unfortunately, he can't get revenge on anyone. He decides to fight the strongest boss in the game, twin-headed dragon Urus, killing one head in a single strike and almost killing the boss with another, when Urus decides to break the game script, begging Ji-Yu not to kill him, offering to become his weapon, transferring his soul into the stick, giving it infinite durability. Which is also when the game decides to place the biggest bounty on his head, and when the top 5 strongest guilds in the game gather to fight him. A 3 million player versus 1, and he obliterates them. After a quick catch up with Luna, the girl who murdered him before, being unable to kill her, he decides, what better way to get revenge than to destroy the planet? On episode 4, he murders more than 3 million players and the world before we even learn his name. Anyways, after a quick run-in with the creators of the game, leading him to keep the stick because it wasn't a bugged item and the creators want to give the users the freedom to choose whatever path they want, yada yada yada. After watching this girl go through something similar to what he went through at the beginning of the series, he wants to team up with this girl, Captain Love, an incredibly popular idol secretly playing the game. And he pretends to be weak while being, I think, just the most powerful player in the game because he wants to keep this secret OP persona role. His words, not mine. And honestly, him just in underwear and a cape with a stick is a pretty convincing cover, even earning him the nickname Undies, which is when the story really begins. Yep, that was just the prologue. My guy destroys the world, and it's considered the prologue. Anyways, with the series having just about 35 episodes and already multiple mini storylines and more, this series already raises a couple of questions, at least it does to me. Why does this series work? And why does the character work? That's right! I'm gonna try to make a complicated video out of a mainly comedy-based series with absolutely chaotic characters, storylines, and art most of the time. Like episode 30 having my 2 favorite panels in all of Webtoon history, episode 9 having my favorite depiction of a 9-year-old child, or the time when he reaches the maximum level, and since he never chose a class, he gets a hidden class that gets 3 times the amount of ability points to put into his stats, and decides to max out his constitution, making him practically unkillable. Or every time there's like a new threat or a danger that appears to be unbeatable, he either wins through some random nonsense, or is himself having a blast fighting someone who's worthy of fighting. So let's just try to answer those questions. Let's start with the easier one, the character. Undies, Noob, Jiu Lee, whatever you want to call him, is another example of the recent trend of an overpowered main character. Before, we had main characters who were strong, yes, but not overpowered, because it was usually much more interesting and just much more relatable to see our main character struggle and lose. Many series are like this, many series will continue to be like this, because it is good. Series like Elyseed or The Lazy Lord Masters a Sword, our characters should lose sometimes. Though, recently, we've seen a rise in these overpowered main characters. I recently made a video on that topic, so consider this section an update to that. But I've also kind of just a little bit changed my mind. I think there are 2 main ways this character could work. The first way is to just give him a major weakness or a drawback, either to their powers or to themselves. Omniscient Reader's Doksha Kim isn't an overpowered protagonist in the traditional sense, as his major flaw is actually his combative power. Instead, having knowledge of the future and having strong powers against fantasy but not reality, see this video for an explanation. Hardcore Leveling Warrior's Ethan is the #1 ranked player in Lucid Adventure. He's incredibly powerful but morally bankrupt and a social outcast. And finally, UnOrdinary's John Doe. Not only does his power rely on other people's power, having a copycat ability, but also being a broken person himself, mentally and emotionally. These kind of systems make characters still interesting and engaging, as they have their strengths, sometimes massive strengths, but they also have a massive downside or weaknesses to balance out how powerful they are. Or, you can try the other way, which is to just make them fun. I read a lot of series, I've said this many times, and I read a lot of series that have these overpowered protagonists, and the biggest downfall is that they just make them a normal character. I realized this not while reading this series, but it did help, but when I was reading the series I'm the Max Level Newbie. The series is generally a pretty generic hunters, monsters, towers, skills, whatever, solo leveling. However, the main character is a morally bankrupt, crazy person. He's egotistical, he's a narcissist, he's a scammer, and it's honestly really fun. Look, I like the stoic, serious, determined characters. Characters that never give up. Through struggle and failure, they persevere, but that doesn't work that well with an overpowered protagonist. At least not in the long run. But the crazy fun people are great, because every moment we have with them makes me want to keep on reading the series and keep on enjoying it. Which brings us back to the series itself. The series is crazy and fun. It's pure chaos. These characters, this world, everything about it is absolute insanity about 90% of the time. 90% of the time, it's crazy chaotic fun. The fights, the monsters, the characters, the art, the comedy, it's all insane. But there are moments where the series isn't crazy chaotic fun, and not in a bad way either. Look, there always needs to be a balance in the series. Now, you might think this is a poor balance, 90-10 wouldn't work, but I actually argue the opposites. I think because there's such a disparity, the moments that aren't extreme craziness are all the more impactful on us. We go through multiple arcs: poor parenting, admin abuse, just a full all-out war on demons, but it all leads to one of the most recent arcs, the Starlight Flower. A very cool title, but it's also someone's username. Actually, it's the player who gave Undies over here his stick at the beginning of the series. After a very sweet moment where he finally opens up with someone and talks about all of his adventures, and also after trying to repay her for giving him the stick, she gives him an address to a hospital where she's been sick for a while and she only has 2 weeks to live. She explains her story, that she chose to be a merchant because she wanted to connect with people. She was technically a bad merchant, giving things away for next to nothing, sometimes even nothing, but she connected with so many people until one day she didn't log in. And when she did, she looked wildly different, and most players moved on to a different part of the game. She asked GU to come in so someone would remember her. She was afraid that everyone would forget about her once she passed away. She didn't even want the surgery, even when GU offered to pay for it because she was so afraid of dying and being forgotten. But after he gathers all of the players who she's helped, who haven't forgot about her, she goes through with it and comes out healed. This single episode makes me cry. There's a good chance while editing this, I'm crying. Maybe there's just this fear of being forgotten or of death, especially to someone who's been so kind and generous to everyone, but there's just something about have our main character's heart break. The character who constantly makes this face, who runs around in underwear and a cloak with a stick, then go on an emotional rampage that makes me and definitely many people in the comments cry. This is why I said the disparity can work, because we're so used to having this crazy amount of fun. Watching a man with a stick in his underwear wreck his opponents, to then have him break down when the only person he's ever felt comfortable talking with refused treatment. That makes my heart break. This series is way better than I gave it credit for. I thought it would be non-stop nonsense, but there's a method to the madness that makes Plus 99 Reinforced Stick an absolute blast to read. So make sure you check it out, updating every week on Webtoon.